Meghan Markle thought one polished maternal moment could soften the noise, but the second a leaked Archie registry story collided with years of unanswered questions. That carefully controlled image was dragged back into a succession controversy. At the David Foster Foundation 40th Anniversary Gala inside the Victoria Conference Center in British Columbia, Canada, the cameras caught a tender-looking scene. Former American Idol star Pia Toscano, heavily pregnant after performing Feeling Good, approached the VIP table, and Meghan Markle rose, reached toward Pia's stomach, and declared, "This is the most beautiful time of your life." Sweet? Maybe convenient? Critics immediately questioned it because after years of fiercely defending privacy, bodily autonomy, and boundaries, the image of Meghan Markle touching another pregnant woman's stomach without any visible invitation became instant gossip fuel. The source transcript treats that moment not as harmless affection, but as a calculated attempt to reinforce a maternal image while old suspicions resurfaced, and that contrast turns the story darker. Why would one gesture at a gala reopen arguments dating back to late 2018 and early 2019? Because critics had already spent years dissecting Meghan Markle's first publicized pregnancy with Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor, turning photographs, movements, outfits, and silences into supposed evidence of something hidden. In January 2019, during a visit to the Mayhew Animal Welfare Charity in London, the transcript says Meghan, publicly understood to be deep into pregnancy, arrived in tight knitwear and high heels before dropping into a low squat to pet a dog and rising again with apparent ease. That movement became one of the central visual clues used by skeptics, who claimed her abdomen behaved strangely during public appearances in Australia, New Zealand, and London. Another clip outside the Royal National Theatre fueled similar claims, while the Sussex PR machine dismissed the speculation as conspiracy. And this is exactly where the mystery stops being about gossiping over photographs and shifts toward official paperwork. Because the transcript then shifts from body language theories to the morning of May 6, 2019, when Archie Harrison was reported born. For generations, royal births in the direct line came wrapped in ceremony and documentation. The transcript contrasts that tradition with Prince William and Kate Middleton welcoming Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis at the Lindo wing of St. Mary's Hospital, where formal palace notices reinforced institutional verification. But when Archie Harrison was reported born at the private Portland Hospital in London at 5:26 in the morning, critics focused on what they believed was missing: the familiar doctor's signatures on the palace birth notice. Then the timeline became more combustible. The Sussex communications team announced that Meghan had gone into labor, yet reports said Harry and Meghan were already back at Frogmore Cottage when the announcement reached the press, prompting an explanation that the message was delayed. That might have been dismissed as chaos, except the source adds another rumor: gossip involving the Countess of Bradford, followed by a public denial from the Earl and Countess of Bradford that either had any involvement in the birth. Then came the document that turned suspicion into an internet obsession. The source says researchers examining registry material for Windsor and Maidenhead focused on an entry associated with Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor that appeared to carry a May 1st, 2019 intake date 5 days before the publicly announced May 6th birth. Officials reportedly treated the discrepancy as a clerical error, but critics seized on it as something far more explosive. The story then claims Harry and Meghan arranged a private registration visit and that Prince Harry used a personal bodyguard as a witness, another detail skeptics treated as suspicious. None of those claims proves the sweeping theories built around them. But in gossip terms, the pattern is lethal: unusual imagery, confusing communications, missing signatures, disputed dates, and a registry record that critics insist should never have looked the way it did. And once a succession question enters the picture, even an inconsistency becomes explosive, because critics stop seeing isolated mistakes and start seeing a chain. That is the danger now. Every detail is being reopened, and that is precisely why the leak did not bury the controversy. It detonated it again. Then the story takes another sharp turn, because after the registry questions came the July 2019 christening photograph controversy. And suddenly, investigators were no longer staring only at paperwork, they were staring at digital metadata. On July 6, 2019, the Sussexes released a polished family photograph from the Green Drawing Room at Windsor Castle, showing Prince William, Kate Middleton, King Charles Camilla, and Diana's sisters gathered around the baby. But according to the transcript, photojournalists examining the image claimed its embedded timestamp pointed to May 8, 2019, just 2 days after the announced birth, rather than the July christening date. The photographer reportedly blamed software settings, yet critics seized on the discrepancy as another supposedly impossible coincidence. And just when those questions seemed impossible to intensify, the entire controversy crossed the Atlantic. By June 2021, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were living in California, and the birth paperwork surrounding Leah Diana Mountbatten Windsor triggered a completely new argument after the June 4, 2021 delivery at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. The certificate became the next battlefield. According to the transcript, Prince Harry did not use Henry Charles Albert David Mountbatten Windsor in the father's name field and instead entered the Duke of Sussex and His Royal Highness, while Meghan used Rachel Meghan Markle alongside royal styling. Critics claim those entries conflicted with California naming rules and accused the Sussexes of using American paperwork to reinforce royal status. Then, pandemic-era rumors added fuel. Stories circulated that Harry and Meghan supposedly received extraordinary privileges at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital, including extensive private space and exemptions from ordinary COVID-19 restrictions, only for those claims to be walked back as exaggerated or misunderstood. None of that stopped the speculation. Instead, every reversal became another question, and every question seemed to point back toward Buckingham Palace and one increasingly uncomfortable mystery: why was King Charles remaining silent? That silence becomes the emotional center of the transcript. Queen Elizabeth II had built her reign around visibility and public trust, yet Archie and Lilibet were portrayed here as almost completely absent from the institutional life surrounding the monarchy. The transcript emphasizes that there was no publicly verified photograph showing King Charles III with both American-born grandchildren and points toward the Platinum Jubilee period, when Harry and Meghan reportedly brought the children to London but no official family image emerged. Critics interpreted that absence as more than privacy. They saw fear that asking harder questions would trigger another global confrontation between the palace and Montecito. So Archie and Lilibet remained on the official succession structure, and the controversy expanded from family gossip into constitutional panic. That is where the Act of Settlement enters the storm. The transcript argues that ancient succession principles require heirs to satisfy specific hereditary conditions and claims that any proven surrogacy would create a serious legal dispute over eligibility. It then pushes the accusation toward King Charles III, portraying hesitation as a dangerous choice between family loyalty and constitutional duty. The comparison becomes deliberately explosive when King Charles III is invoked, followed by the history of Parliament challenging royal power. By the time the narrative reaches Westminster, the threat is no longer whispered gossip. It becomes political pressure. MPs, church figures, and critics are described as increasingly willing to question titles, succession, and the Sussexes' continued constitutional position. And now everything circles back. Pia Toscano, the David Foster Gala, the disputed physical footage, Portland Hospital, the registration dates, California documents, Harry, Meghan, Archie, Leah, and King Charles III. Separate controversies suddenly look connected because the transcript deliberately stacks them into one giant pattern. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle left royal life promising freedom, independence, and reinvention. Yet the story ends with mounting legal battles, damaged relationships, commercial strain, and relentless scrutiny. The final question hanging over Buckingham Palace is no longer whether the gossip will disappear. It is whether Parliament will eventually force the issue King Charles III has avoided, and whether one leaked registry trail could become the spark that turns years of suspicion into a full constitutional confrontation.